G'day, everyone. Hey, I want you to meet Ivan Pols. Ivan is an incredible creative leader. He's been a leader in the in-house agency space for 9 years or so, but before that, spent a long time on the agency side. Big agencies, global creative director at Adam and Eve, before that at Ogilvy and Mather. But today, he joins us as the Chief Creative Officer for a business called What 3 Words, a fantastic tech business that helps you geolocate wherever you are on the planet. How many? 47 trillion combinations, I think you said, something like that, Ivan, through the combination of words, which is a fascinating piece of technology. Ivan, please join us on the iHack Insights call. Welcome.
Thank you for having me, Chris. Hello, Abby.
Oh, it's fantastic to have you, mate. So, mate, in this conversation, we want to talk a little bit about your experience and moving up the chain into a chief creative officer role, sitting on the board of a really successful technology business. We talk sometimes in this community about elevating the role of creativity in businesses and building a creative culture. And, you know, we've seen some businesses, particularly over in the United States, start to bring in these roles of chief creative officer who actually, you know, report directly into the CEO and have a role in instilling creative culture across the whole organization, not just in the marketing department. So tell us a little bit about, you know, what you do, your business, What 3 Words, and your role today as Chief Creative Officer.
I'll get What 3 Words out of the way quickly. It is a geolocation business. So geolocation is a $4 billion industry. Every time you do an address lookup through Uber or to get a delivery, can take out, deliver to your house. Every time you put an address into a checkout box, there's a lookup that happens. And that checks a database, and that returns a GPS coordinates to a map. That someone charges you for that. You may not pay for it as a user, but the business pays for a credible, proper location. Google is a big seller of maps. What 3 Words has done is basically simplified GPS coordinates down to 3-word codes, and we have assigned a 3-word code to every 3 meter square on the planet. So apple banana spoons, trail shark lists, filled can soap, these are all 3 meter squares somewhere on the planet. And we've done that in 64 different languages. So you can use it in French, Mongolian, Vietnamese, Telugu. Yeah. So it's been a really fascinating business because what we had done is combined language, our ability to speak to each other normally, combine that with like high fidelity location, and then had to build out the technology to make that accessible, whether that is whether you write it on a piece of paper, you speak it over the phone, you put it into a geo information system that your emergency services use to find you if you're in trouble.
Right. So it's really precise geolocation, but turned into language rather than numbers, right? So I guess there's got to be an insight in there, Ivan, about humans being able to understand and remember language more than numbers. That's underneath the whole thing?
It's exactly what it comes from. So the company was founded by a guy called Chris Sheldrick and his friend Mohan, who happens to be I think he's a professor of number theory. So
right.
He has all the maths in his brain, but they're trying to work out how to help musicians find the locations of stages and venues. So if you think about the problem of a musician going to a new place, it's always, you've got to find it. Like, you know, and these are big venues and you don't know where to put the stuff. You don't know where to turn up. And Chris hates people turning up late. That is an important thing to know about Chris. And so he asked Mohan, like, how would you solve this? And I went, well, actually words are more easy to remember and to use than numbers. 16 digits is quite difficult to remember, but also if you make an error anywhere in that 16 numbers, you can end up 100 kilometers away or 1,000 kilometers away. But words, much easier for us to remember, to speak over the phone, and really good for voice recognition in computer systems, actually. So he figured, okay, well, maybe we just use words. And then I've got to say, it's always just amazes me that he worked this out. He worked out how many 3 meter squares there are on the surface of the planet, which is 57 trillion. It's a lot, plus some spare change. And then he worked out that you just need a word list of 40,000 words. So 40,000 times 40,000 times 40,000 gets you to 60 trillion.
Wow.
Trust me, which is, more, the stars that we can see, we have more squares on the planet than.
Isn't that amazing?
So it's a gigantic number.
Yeah.
But then the technology comes in, like the thinking there has to go, how do you make not only the system understandable to people who've only ever used a traditional address, something that is given to you through the history of your country, assigned to you by the government, it's the story of where your home is. And then how do we add this extra piece of information in that helps you be more precise about specific locations that are hard to address, or you want to be specific about an entrance, place to park your car, or somewhere that you need the emergency services to turn up as fast as possible.
I love the origin story around helping musicians find where the stage is. I can imagine you walking into a venue or even a music festival where there's 6 different stages and they're kind of like, which one do I have to go to? And you can be really specific about, you got to go here at this entrance and leave your gear in the back room there, that sort of stuff.
We're used by Glastonbury, just to
Oh, yeah?
But Glastonbury uses us to both set up, but also everyone who goes uses it to find their tent and their friends.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. Well, while we're talking about origin stories, tell us your origin story, mate. So you did a bunch of time on the agency side. You've even got your own consulting firm or agency now called Truth and Spectacle. Tell us a little bit about how you came up through the agency world to now being on the client side, in-house role as Chief Creative Officer.
Well, my ambition to be a cartoonist has been thwarted. I ended up going to design school, and I was hired at a small ad agency in Johannesburg as an art director, which then got bought by Ogilvy, which started in my Ogilvy travels. I was at Ogilvy Johannesburg, moved to Ogilvy Toronto, worked there for 4 years, so got exposed to North America style and also global business. And then I was asked to come to London to work on Dove specifically. I was global creative director on Dove with a team of people. And that kind of expanded out to like Dove Men and Philips and a whole bunch of things like that. And so what I really enjoy is not just the art direction, but also the idea of brand and how you can, how we create brands through codes, through systems of thinking, through repetition. And when you're working on global pieces of business and do tons of testing, of course, you start to really understand how that works. But I always felt like there was more to be done, that being in an ad agency, you were kind of put into this little box that you were only asked to make ads. And I had this crazy idea that you could, think beyond that and think if you go brand experience, I should be able to influence how the finance team send out their invoices to make it make it better for the business. And so I worked at Adam and Eve, and then I realized I was out of love with advertising. I just thought it was really wasteful. And there was something missing. So left there, started my own practice, which is called Truth and Spectacle, after a Stanley Kubrick quote. Every brand needs 2 things, truth and spectacle. You've got to say it brilliantly. You've got to grab people by the throat. But the idea there was to help organizations tell their own story brilliantly. And so that means working with businesses that did not think of themselves as creative directly. If you want better creative work, you need better clients. So I went to go make better clients. And then one of those was What Three Words? And I kind of started as freelance creative director. Just as that got their Series B funding, we were expanding the amount of storytelling we needed to do. That was just a fascinating problem because it's fundamental. I've explained the concept of it, and I think people get it. But then I need to make sure that people in the Bahamas can understand it and use it as easily as someone who lives in London.
I find that such an interesting origin story because so often we get told that, you can't be as creative in-house. But what you actually found was that it's a way for you to think outside of the box of being a creative and the traditional creative and just be creative and problem solve creatively. And I remember you said to me once, you're like, oh, look, geolocation technology is not necessarily the sexiest thing on the world, but being able to think about business problems is very cool for a creative mind like you. So tell me a bit about your day-to-day in what 3 words, and what does creative thinking look like in your current experience?
Oh, that's a big question.
You said I could ask you big questions, so I came.
It's been really fascinating to watch how it works across the life cycle of the business. Because, when you start with 20 people, the impact of every person in that room is much greater than when there are 120 people, in 4 offices around the world, and your systems are set up. I think fundamentally, who I am hasn't really changed in the way I work. I keep an eye out, I suppose, for things that don't make sense to me. So, I suppose pattern recognition and empathy for the things out in the world. I keep an eye on how will people receive our brand story. And the brand story is, you can use different terms to describe it, but for me, it's really important that people understand what 3 words enough. And even if they don't understand us, they like us. And if they like us, they may not know why they like us, because we're a geolocation company that doesn't weird address things, but they have a good association with us and are likely to try the system once, maybe twice, and if it works well for them, a 3rd time. So a lot of my work is about helping that story stick together across lots of different touch points through the stages of the business as we try to grow it from a thing when literally you would just have a conversation like this and everyone would look at me like I'm completely insane. Mm-hmm. And why are you spending your time with these people? And now I have people telling me about what 3 words, which is astonishing.
Yeah, and I love it that you've used this incredible company that gave you real incredible, whether they gave it to you willingly or by surprise attack, but this incredible license to think broadly and creatively. And you've used that platform to also just spread the word to young creatives that they can be more than, I love that that's your kind of your side reason for being, the thing that you come back to all the time, and why you do podcasts like this is to inspire people and tell them it's okay to want more and to think broader and be creative everywhere, and help create the finance team be more creative in their solutions and things like that. So did this come on you gradually, or has it been there was a moment where you went, I've got to spread the word, I've got to spread the good word?
I've always been like a mentor. I've always enjoyed kind of inspiring younger people around me. But I think the moment where I became really unhappy with the status quo was when I understood the status quo. So I was asked to be on a senior leadership management training course at Ogilvy, and which was kind of almost pitched to me apologetically, would you be interested in this? It was like, yes, because I feel like this is stuff I don't know. I can make beautiful TV ads, but being part of this management team is not something I've been trained to do. So I was really keen to understand more. And it was an 18-month program. And we were all assembled in one of those event spaces at a hotel in the countryside, and there were 40 people in the room. And I looked around the room as we were introducing ourselves, and I realized I was the only one from a creative department in the entire cohort. So for the next 18 months in this particular cohort, one person from the creative team in a company that sold creativity as a product.
Yeah, we're talking about an agency here, right? This isn't some big corporate business. This is an agency that's paid to do creative work.
Absolutely. And over the course of that program, because they give you the tools to really change and to imagine and structure arguments and present. But I really did realize that I was never going to become the chairman of Ogilvy or the CEO of one of the businesses. It was not a culture that thought about its business creatively. We sold creativity as a product, but I was shut down, and maybe there were terrible ideas. That's fine. But I had a lot of ideas about how we should have been integrating digital into our advertising business more, that we needed to be more front foot. Here are the business plans. Yes. Killed off. Now, there might have been terrible ideas. That's okay. But in retrospect, what I've seen is WPP businesses and Ogilvy did not adapt to what was happening in the industry. They were not adapting to the technology changes and the culture changes that were happening. And I felt that I let down by people who did rely on the work I created to sell time and assets to businesses like Unilever for hundreds of millions of euros, but couldn't think of their own business model in a more creative way. And that's, so that was like my moment where I was just like, oh, I think I'm fed up with this.
And then you looked in-house and you saw, there's some spots to be creative.
So there was a moment when I was asked by, so Unilever had this funny role, which was creative excellence. Definitely at the global range, and they had these people who would swan around and like basically try and get their brands to be more creatively excellent, whatever that means. Like, you're working with Adam and Eve, you're going to be amazing, doesn't matter. If you're a better client, and so the guy who asked me, he said, how can we win more awards at Cannes? I mean, that's a fair question. So instead of like coming up with what you need to be is braver and all the rest of it, I just went and looked at the numbers. I sat there like an idiot going through the Cannes archive, tallying up the awards entered by agencies, awards entered by clients, so like the range of like, bronze, shortlist, all the rest of that. And basically tracks like this. It tracks with marketing directors. So marketing director at Dove wins a bunch of awards. He goes to Burger King. Burger King starts to win awards. He goes to wherever, they start to win awards. Jonathan Oldenhall, Coca-Cola. Then he goes to Airbnb. It's like, and you just watch, it just tracks like this. And you can track it by the willingness of the marketing director to spend money and give things scale. And it almost has nothing to do with the quality of the ad agency. It's the quality of the client. And that's when I was like, oh, there's a space there. If you want better work, make better clients.
Yeah, interesting. And you just said to spend money, the willingness to spend money and give things scale. Did you find somewhere in your research there's a corresponding investment level that was important? Like if you want to win a gold line, you have to have put many millions of dollars behind it? Or did you find sometimes the idea is good enough and it doesn't have to have all the big dollars behind it?
That really good ideas we end up with silver because they just didn't have enough belief from the company. Right. And that's partly to do with PR and just because the award shows are a bit of a random weird world where a lot of work is talked up and hyped, but it didn't actually achieve any real change in the world. And I think that's also to the detriment of the entire creative industry because it just diminishes the value that you create. Your clients go, that's great, you got a prize, but it didn't move my bottom line. It didn't change anyone's lives. But businesses can change lives. So as an example, What Three Words, by just sticking to its guns, has over time built a business that literally saves lives every day. Yeah, that's amazing. There's a real purpose behind that. I know we're about to run out of time, and you've been so generous with your time, Ivan. You just spent an hour with us before this sharing to our iHack members some of your philosophies on how to build a creative culture in an organization and how to lift the priority of creativity so that it plays a role across
the whole business, not just the advertising world. Maybe just to kind of leave our listeners with some of your philosophies on how do you, as a creative leader, build a really strong creative culture in a business and encourage the business to take creative risks and innovate and do things that are interesting for its customers and consumers.
Sure, I'll try and summarize.
Big question, but take your time.
Step one, I would say you are a creative leader in a business, not in a studio or a marketing team. And that shift of thinking of yourself as part of the creative function of an organization. So we have finance and we have sales, and all teams have to know about finance and how to spend their budgets. I would say every team needs to understand how to create the brand and tell the story as well as possible. And so when you reframe it from small and my little team to big church, everyone is creative. That I think is the biggest mind shift change that has worked for me and has worked for my team, because it's meant we need to be more open, far less defensive about why we are here. Creative people are almost defined by the self-esteem issues, and which I think is terrible. No, but it's like, I love this work, you're great. I hate this work, you're crap, garbage. We are practitioners, and I use that word properly. We are practitioners. We have methodology. We are robust, hardcore thinkers, and our job is not to tell people what to do. It's coach them to do what we do in whatever capacity they want to. So that's one part of it, and then the other bit is, I think, a questioning mindset. So when you pose strategies as questions, people around you start to get creative and solve those questions. They start looking for answers. It is part of our, it's literally the way our brains are wired, that a good question leads to divergent thinking. And if you understand how to harness divergent thinking to then get to solutions, then you are a creative practitioner.
I love it. It always just, whenever I talk to you, I always just feel like, A, I feel more creative, and B, I think I just feel like what's possible, and that gets so exciting for me. So thank you so much for coming and giving us the time, and also thank you for letting me know you were coming down to Sydney. I speak to you when you're on the UK time, and it's so nice to be in sunlight together and prove both of us aren't, one of us isn't a vampire.
I'm not a vampire.
Well, I might be, but thank you so much for chatting with us today, and we'll speak again soon.
Podcast edit by Abe's Audio.